All right, today is October 6th, 2016, and we're looking at the northwest Atlantic water vapor loop, keeping an eye on Hurricane Matthew right here and Hurricane Nicole. This is a Category 2 storm with 110 mile per hour winds, and we have some interesting developments here. First of all, we have a upper level low pressure system which is moving south and creating a change in the weather pattern here. We can see that, and this just appeared out of nowhere. I was reviewing my part 3 video last night, and starting around 6 minutes and 5 seconds, you can cue that up if you're interested in watching the flow. Last night, this flow was moving right out to the east-northeast, this entire flow. And since that time, we see that this here has developed and is moving south and moving right into this area of these two hurricanes. This is going to change the direction. Somehow the people on television knew this. This is very strange. Again, if you look at the maps yesterday, this is actually a dry, sort of a dry upper level low that has a transmitter on it. We see these go over California all the time, and once they pass over California, they are allowed to redevelop. The transmitter is taken off, and this spins up into a big storm and moves out, kind of like what we're seeing over here with a big frontal system. But this is moving south, and that is going to force this storm back around and right into Nicole right here. Now, both of these storms have blast patterns, but that's really kind of meaningless at this point because they could have killed this storm off, and they didn't. This is a deliberate act, a terrorist act. For some reason, they've allowed this storm to run into Florida. And we have an election, a national election, in about a month, a little over a month. And Florida is an important state in the Electoral College. We all know what happened, back in 2000 with the election down there. If you YouTube Clint Curtis, software engineer, he was a software engineer and who was hired to write code that would tip the elections in various precincts and counties, 51 to 49%. This is the problem with electronic voting machines. They should not be allowed. We should be going with paper ballots, serialized paper ballots. These electronic voting machines are software run, and unless the source code is available and able to for public view, then the whole thing should be tossed out the window. Software is not, should never be a part of voting, electing leaders. So there are a lot of reasons why a hurricane would be at this point in time run into Florida, and also we're going to see this thing turn right because of all this going on, and we're going to have these two systems plus this upper level low right out here. This is very strange. I've been looking at the part 3 video starting at about 6 minutes and 5 seconds and wondering how this got into the picture. Where did this come from? Okay, so we can see the storm is moving right near the coast there. Let's go take a quick close-up look here. This is the southeast water vapor loop. We can see that very intense purple, sort of a pink purple color, pink and purple. And this is going to move right up the coast of Florida. There's an eye wall. Now we know that if you've been following these videos for the last few months or a year or more, we know that they can strike and target the core of this hurricane and kill it. But they're, like I say, the blast pattern here is for show. You're hitting it lightly with insufficient power. If they hit the core of this thing, that's where all the convection is occurring. The core of the hurricane is the machine that fuels the entire system. That's where all the convection takes place. If they hit this, several times, that will break it down. And that's not been done. And again, I have many, many dozens and dozens, hundreds of videos on YouTube now. I'm doing these almost every day. And if you watch them, you'll see that every single hurricane out in the East Pacific, right off the west coast of the U.S., was steered around Hawaii last season and this season. A couple of them they ran right up against the islands and blew them apart at the last second, just to as a show, putting on a show to demonstrate that there is some randomness, and it's a confidence game. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, let's look at another view here. This is a corrupted map of the visible map is corrupted, but we can see some photoshopping. You're not really hiding much, actually. That's just there, so we can assume that something is being done. But okay. Here's the hurricane map. We have Matthew moving northwest at 13 miles per hour with 130 mile per hour winds. About 3 hours ago, this storm had 140 mile per hour winds about 4 hours ago. Category 4, core pressure of 939 millibar. That's pretty low. That's very low, and that's going to bring a lot of wind as this skirts by the coastline. You can see that eye wall is just not too far offshore, so I hope everybody's prepared. All right. And here's another view showing a high pressure between these two systems. The high pressure should be over here, steering this thing away from the U.S. coastline, and not being concerned about these two merging. They could push all this way out into the Atlantic and then deal with it once it's out into the Atlantic. There's a reason this was done. Probably has something to do with the elections coming up in the United States. Florida is a pivotal state, as I mentioned. Okay, let's keep going here. We've seen this. This is the big game changer right here. And that is going to force this storm down into this area. So these two may merge. It'll be very interesting to see what develops here in the next couple of days. 2 or 3 days. We'll have to keep a close eye on things. All right, let's look at the swell. This is the ocean swell map for the Atlantic, and we can see that Matthew's generating 31-foot seas right off the coast of Florida, which is this orange line here. And then Nicole over here is generating 22-foot seas. So we're going to have some major erosion and large waves right along the Florida coast there. Okay, let's take a look at the west coast. And today we had late afternoon chemtrails in Southern California. The early part of the day was very clear. No chemtrails. There wasn't a cloud in the sky anywhere until around probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And we can see this moisture field moving through the area right just south of California is broken up by a transmitter. That is a microwave transmitter, which is evaporating all that moisture, breaking up that moisture field. Also, we had jet stream flow moving down diagonally through the state, and we can see that that has changed a little bit. The pattern has changed a little bit. We have a low pressure right here. We've got a low up here. This is actually a storm right up here, and another developing hurricane force storm out here, which is being manipulated by a transmitter. We can see this this big U-shaped figure. This is a transmitter plowing right into the core of this system. We have quite a bit of weather out here in the Pacific Ocean, and a lot of chemtrails have a contact up in near Lake Tahoe. Very heavy chemtrailing today and yesterday, and we can see why. That jet stream's moving moisture right through the state, and they're chemtrailing to prevent the rain. And then we have another very large system out over here. So eventually this is going to get out of control, completely out of control, because there's only the Earth can only be placed out of balance. The weather tries to seek balance, to seek equilibrium, and by forcing heat into these low pressure systems, it's like pressing down on a spring, and that spring has a potential energy once you let go of it, and the spring will undulate, it'll ring at a resonant frequency. What we're seeing here is so much manipulation going on that if all the transmitters around the world were unplugged, we'd have weather and rain and tremendous amounts of weather for many, many, many months, I believe, until the Earth and its weather uh, rebalanced itself. And that's kind of my own theory on this. Let's look at the SSEC map right here. Here you go. And we can see some chemtrails being laid out right through here. It's a moisture field. It's got here's a transmitter right here. We can see the outline of that. A lot of chemtrail activity all through here. Also right up in this area. This is a developing Hurricane 4 storm right up here near the Aleutian Islands. Actually one here and one right here. And if anyone remembers the weather like I do back in the 70s, I used to watch the weather reports when I was a little kid in the 60s, early 60s, and I can tell you one thing, and that is the weather never looked like this. There was just a very small frontal system that would move down into California. We get 2 or 3 days worth of rain from that tiny little frontal system, and now we're seeing these gigantic weather systems, and I think that's the reason why these transmitters are employed. That's why we have chemtrails. There's weather warfare going on because not only the United States is doing this, but there's China, you've got Russia. Satellites, or U.S. satellites, are being destroyed with lasers from China. A lot of stuff going on that we know nothing about. Tiny micro-sized satellites will sneak up to our satellites and light off ignite an EMF wave, which will destroy electronics. An EMF pulse is an electromagnetic pulse with a very high uh, very high energy electromagnetic pulse, and it has enough energy to wipe out electronics unless they're adequately filtered. And even then, damage will still happen. All right, here's the surface analysis map for the West Coast. We can see there's a storm right off of Washington that's moving to the northeast. We have a trough and low shown here right near off inland of California, and a lot of chemtrail spraying going on here. High pressure, of course, that's always there. And we have these developing Hurricane 4 storm right here, 975 millibar. That's moving towards Alaska. No rain for California. Here's the sea level pressure map. We can see that down here we have this Matthew right here. We have some higher pressure up here, 1016 millibar. Here's the 500 millibar. Got that low pressure up here where that is diving down. That's going to force this hurricane into. They've got actually, they're not showing the high pressure. This is not accurate. Got the 300 millibar map. Okay, so this is that's it. That's the report, and we'll leave it right here and do another update probably in the morning. Okay, this is what we're watching right here, right there. Okay, that's it.